Hi, I'm Cassandra Cummings, investment and wealth strategist, founder of the Stocks and Stilettos Society, with over 100,000 Black women investors, and author of the new book, Fearless Finances. I hold a bachelor's of science in accounting from the University of Southern California and a certificate in women's entrepreneurship from Cornell University. I'm excited to moderate the Money Matters for Women Entrepreneurs session, featuring two distinguished and brilliant women, hosted by Mastercard. First up, we have Ginger Siegel, who currently serves as North America's small business lead for Mastercard. Prior to joining Mastercard, Ginger was a leader in the financial services group at Deloitte, where she was a member of the highly ranked payments practice with a focus on small business, fintech, bank partnerships, and commercial banking. She brings over 30 years of industry leadership experience as an executive at large multinational and regional banks in the areas of small business, business, and retail banking, having worked for notable financial institutions such as Citigroup, SunTrust, and PNC. She's been featured in Forbes, US News, and World Report, as well as USA Today, just to name a few. Ginger focuses on female entrepreneurship and is passionate about helping her clients with overall revenue growth, customer acquisition, and strategy creation. Let's welcome Ginger Siegel to the program. How are you, Ginger?
Great. Thank you so much, Cassandra.
Great. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you've been very thorough. Just that small business and helping small business is a passion of mine. And people call me a small business zealot. So really looking forward to today. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Next up, we have Lenore Horton. She is the owner and managing member of Horton Legal Strategies, PLLC, an acclaimed corporate litigator, as well as an international trademark lawyer. She has been ranked number 3 nationally by Black Enterprise Magazine as a top 100 Black female attorney you should know, been recognized by Crain's New York as a top 100 leading lawyer, and was recognized by Washington Business Journal for building one of the top 25 LGBTQ-owned businesses in Washington, D.C. in just under 3 years. Lenore has been practicing for 18 years and is an accredited investor, which combined proves beneficial to clients on the impact of legal matters and when raising capital from passive investors. She has taught law school in the US and abroad. Lenore holds a JD from Howard University School of Law and an LLM in International Law, magna cum laude, from Fordham University School of Law. Originally from the Deep South, she lives in Montclair, New Jersey with her family and is a licensed foster parent to newborns and toddlers. Let's welcome Lenore Horton to the program. How are you, Lenore?
Hi, I'm doing great, and I'm really excited to be here to talk about today's topic affecting so many business owners.
Great. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio?
I think you pretty much covered it. It's pretty thorough. I sound very impressive. I like that. And I really enjoy being able to help founders who are operating at scale in their businesses when it comes to creating the impact they want to have in the world.
Awesome. And you are all of that. So, and she didn't pay me to say any of that, by the way. I want to welcome all the ladies tuning in today for this session, which is titled Money Matters for Women Entrepreneurs. And again, it's hosted by Mastercard. And as a women business owner, you have unique financial needs. These experts today are here to offer solutions for your most pressing money issues. Let's take a look at some of the questions that we have here. So, getting started, let me ask you, Ginger, what are some of the biggest mistakes that women business owners make when they're first starting out? We've just recently heard that Forbes came out a few years ago that Black women entrepreneurs are some of the fastest growing entrepreneurs out there. So what are some of the mistakes that Black women entrepreneurs tend to make when they're getting started?
Yeah, Cassandra, it's a super important question. And you're exactly right that Black women entrepreneurs are growing like crazy. And in fact, overall in the United States, between 2019 and 2020, there were 876,000 overall applications for new businesses. But in 2021, there were 5 million.
Wow.
So what's really exciting is that small businesses have not only survived, but also are thriving due to COVID, coming out of it. And I would say that Black female entrepreneurs are doing amazing. But women entrepreneurs, I would say one of the top things that impact them is that small business owners start their business out of a passion. They do it because it's something they love. They do it because it's something that they're good at. But one of the big mistakes that people make is forgetting that there's an entire business side to this as well. And that you might be really well versed in what you're doing in your business, whether it's designing, whether it's creating things, whether it's printing, whether it's baking. But it's critical to surround yourself with people that can actually help you on the business side, with the strategy, with the planning, with the legal. Incredibly important to make sure that you don't feel that if you ask for help, it's a bad thing.
Right. I think that's, you make some key points there about not only working on the passionate part, right? Because oftentimes these start as passion projects and then they end up being, real businesses. So how to go from ideation to actual realization is really important. And there are a lot of mistakes and bumps in the roads that women entrepreneurs make. Lenore, you want to add to that? Any other mistakes that you've been able to glean from new business owners?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that I see that later on we realize is a mistake are the assumptions that business owners will make when they first start out. So some examples are people will say, well, I don't need to file tax returns because I haven't started making any revenues yet. Or I don't need to file tax returns because I haven't really launched yet. Or, they'll come up with these assumptions around their financial matters in the business without verifying it. And the other part of that, I would say, is believing that or assuming that you'll get verification from sources that you don't trust. That's why I think it's so important to build up a team of advisors and to really engage in them in a way where you truly do trust what they have to say to you. So if you're crowdsourcing from a bunch of different potential advisors, that's usually because there's a lack of trust. But if you actually have people that you've decided to work with, those become your advisors and consultants that you trust. And instead of going online, finding answers or crowdsourcing from friends, your answers, you end up getting answers from those you trust. And those are the answers you're probably going to use to make real decisions in your business. I think those are two really great examples of things we realized later on were mistakes on how people started out in their business.
Great. I think those are also really good things to clue in on. Making sure you have a money team, right? I like to call them a money team or a success squad, which I refer to in my book. So having a success squad helps you with those shortcuts so that you're not necessarily fumbling around or trying to figure things out or spinning your wheels, but your go-to success squad or your board of advisors or what have you really help you to, take those shortcuts and accelerate your success in your business. We don't want to always be Debbie Downers, right? With just talking about the mistakes, but what are some of the challenges that women business owners face that they can look to overcome so that, again, we can help them in this session of Money Matters? Let's start with you, Lenore.
Well, one thing is, there are realities in business, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a Black woman. And you can think of other situations where people will make judgments about who you are and what your capabilities are because of who you are. And I think one of the things that I find have been most successful for those that I work with are when they find the people who believe in them and who don't allow those biases to really impede their willingness to work with them. So they can have a business owner in front of them, they can see how they look, they can see how they show up, but they're not making judgments about what their capabilities are from appearances or from superficial things that really don't make the difference between how successful that business owner can be. Another thing that I found is truly helpful are those who have a learner's mindset. And I think if you're tuning into this program, you've already demonstrated that to some degree. You have a curiosity there to learn more about this aspect in your business. Those who are willing to learn more, to grow in areas that they may not always be comfortable with, are really the ones who come out on top. No one has all the answers. We're always a beginner at some things in our life, and we find new levels where we're a beginner. We can achieve certain things when it comes to understanding our financial matters, but then when we get to that point, we discover there's another level to it, right, that we have to explore. And so those are two areas where I find it's been really successful, when people look for the team that believes in them and that gives them the benefit of the doubt and the support that they deserve. And then when they're willing to learn and to grow and to invest in their learning.
I think that's great. Let me ask Ginger this. So when it comes to challenges for small business owners and new Black women business owners, what are some of the challenges you see with the revenue issues, or with payments, or setting up, succinct or infrastructure around collecting payments, collecting revenue from their clients?
Yeah, it's another really good question. I think that there is a really big potential challenge in not ensuring that you've set yourself up with the right operational efficiency. So as an example, when COVID hit, we saw that there was a significant need for small businesses to be online, but they weren't. And now, following COVID, about 76% say that they know they need to be online. However, getting online, getting a website is one thing, but not making sure that you can receive payments is another. So if you never received payments digitally and now you're online, that's a very, very big red flag for a business, because you have to be able to collect what you're due. The other thing that I think is really important is just overall access to capital, because as you're starting your business, as you're growing your business, obviously revenue is not easy to come by. Mm-hmm. Small business owners tell us that one of the top challenges they have is actually acquiring new customers. So it's really critically important to look at your cash flow. And for me, cash flow is really simple. It's understanding that you have to get your own money in as quick as possible. So for new entrepreneurs, it's not just about borrowing money, but are you making sure that you're collecting money quickly? Are you using digital invoicing so that it's not taking you 4 weeks to get paid? And then on the other side of revenue is actually expenses. And are you sure that you're managing your expenses so that you're paying your bills as slow as possible without being late? Mm-hmm. So I think one of the challenges is really understanding the overall management of cash flow. And particularly for these new Black business owners starting out, they may not have the resources. So unlike some big companies, they don't have chief financial officers. They don't have chief risk officers. So everything they do on their own. But to your point, it's critical to prioritize how your cash flow is coming in.
That's really good, because I've worked with some, small businesses, Black women-owned businesses, and they're using some of these systems such as Cash App and Venmo to run their business. Would you recommend that? Or if not, what would you recommend they actually look to have more, comprehensive accounting, revenue collection system? What would you suggest that they look to, as opposed to, say, Cash App or Venmo? PayPal is even respectable these days, right?
Yep. I think everything has its place, but the main
Okay.
thing is not to just pick something because it's the easiest, but really look at what your business needs. For example, what we find is that many businesses starting out are on Excel spreadsheets, which clearly does not give you the management tools that you need to really understand where your business is. So using, software like a QuickBooks, which Intuit provides. And we have a program called Digital Doors, which really helps small businesses get online and gives access to some of these tools. So I think it's not that Venmo and some of these other apps are not useful, but what you want to do is have a sound foundation with a sound financial accounting software, and then making sure that you also can accept payments like cards the way your consumers want to pay. And I'll overlay all of this with one word, and that's safety. We know that over 50% of all cyber attacks are happening to small businesses today. So it's critical that you protect yourself as a business against any potential attacks. And don't ignore it. We know that 83% of small businesses could not survive an attack. The average cost is between $150,000 and $200,000. So it's important, no matter what you're using, that you're building safety around it. And it puts you in a sound financial position so that you can actually manage your business financially and present your business to banks, et cetera, in a good way.
That's good. That's good. Because as we're securing the bag, we want to also protect the bag.
You got it. You got it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, you mentioned also access to capital and how Black women business owners struggle with that. So talk a little bit about some of the resources that, women can look to. I know that there's resources out there such as Cabbage. We've got iFund Women. So there are a lot of different opportunities for women to access grants and so forth to actually get cash infusions into their businesses. Can you speak a little bit about other opportunities that may be out there that women may not know about?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is there are so many free resources out there that provide great information on where to get access to capital. The SBA actually opened up under the current administrator Guzman, small business development centers that are in just about every town, state. And these centers will actually guide people to where they can get access to capital. I would say that, of course, there's the normal bank loans. There's credit cards, but there's also angel investors and family and friends, which are really good ways to really begin your process. What you don't want to do is overextend too far. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, is access to capital. Once you get your business started, it's critical. And I really look at this as a primary objective, is not necessarily to look to others to give you money, but also look at your own money. And are you bringing your money in that you are owed quickly? So I think, again, family and friends, angel investors, look at the small business development centers, organizations like Grameen and Axion, and companies like Hello Alice, which is a platform for businesses getting started. They all now are looking at building out grants. You also have like the Fearless Fund that specifically focuses on Black female entrepreneurship.
Great, great. I know Arian Simone over there is doing great work spreading the word about the funds that they have available for Black women small business owners. Do you know any that you might want to share as well, Lenore? And after that, I want to talk a little bit about angel investors as well. So any resources that you may know of to share with the ladies tuning in today?
Yeah, so there's the issue of raising funds to run the business operations. And then there's also the issue of, how are you going to find the people who are available, those opportunities. So sometimes it's funds in the form of investing, like angel investors. And you have to think about what are you going to use those funds for? Sometimes it's an issue of getting grants where you're not going to be paying back that money, or where there's no expectation to pay back that money. So if you think about funds, you've got places like Serena Ventures opened up a fund. You have Arlen Hamilton, who opened up a fund. You have Mylik Teal in conjunction with others who opened up a fund. And these are all funds started by Black women, right? And so narrowing that gap is something that they were looking to do when they decided to create an investment structure with them and other people's money. OPM is what we call it, right? Other people's money.
Yes.
And so as an angel investor, so that's one place to look, right? The other thing is, I say, look at the investment criteria to the extent that it is known to you. A lot of times I see people spending time and energy approaching potential investors, and they don't even look to see, is this within the criteria that investor aims to put their funds? You want to pay attention to that, because if you're going to reach out, deal flow is probably one of the biggest issues that we face as potential investors, is quality deal flow. And you get a lot of pings from people who are really just seeing what sticks, right? But if you're that investor, that company that's looking for an investor, and you say, okay, I can see that this investor says that they invest in X, Y, and Z. That's not exactly what I invest in. And you acknowledge that when you reach out, maybe not to ask them to break their investment protocol, because is that the kind of investor that you want? Maybe not. But instead to introduce you to people who might be where your company would be part of their investment criteria. So, I would say be more conscious and deliberate when reaching out to investors. I think you also have to have a strategy. Sometimes people come to me and I'm working with clients, and I'll ask them, well, how much are you looking to raise? And I'm working with them as an attorney, not as an angel investor. And when we map out where they're planning to go in their business, how much the legal spend budget will be, where they plan to put the rest of the funds, I'll say, you're not asking for nearly as much as you need to. And as an angel investor, that's something we think about. Are they asking for enough? Because I don't want to put in money if I don't think you're going to have enough cash at the end of it to execute your vision. So you want to make sure you're asking for enough. This is a common issue that I see with clients and that I see with potential companies I might want to invest in, is that they're not really going for what they need. They're asking for what they think they might get. And if you really play it out and you have a playbook for where you plan to go with your business and what the actual needs are, you can see what those gaps are. So the other thing I think people are going to look at is, are you really operating like a business? You can accept funds through different cash programs outside of checks and credit cards. But if you're not ticking that box to pay the fees, and if it doesn't show up in your tax returns that you're making the type of money you say you're making because you're hoping to save a little bit by waiting for a government entity to catch up with the revenues that you're bringing in, these are the kinds of things that make investors skittish. We want to see that you're not afraid to actually be a business, to pay the taxes that you're supposed to be paying. And so you've got to show up that way. You could look however you want to look on the outside, but when we pop that hood, it's got to still look like a business, right? And you've got to be treating it like a business. And so I think those are some things to think about when it comes to where you are. And this happens no matter where you are in the business. You could be a business entity that is accepting payments via PayPal, and you're trying to skirt around fees by not saying that this is for a service or a good. But you can also be a business that's scaled incredibly. You're using digital invoicing. You're taking wire transfers for payments because that's the level of payments that people are making, perhaps. Or you've got such a volume of payments that you're looking at more than just one avenue for accepting payments. And maybe your issue there is how you're structuring your expenses. Maybe it's how you're classifying your workers. Maybe there are other issues there where you're not really showing up as the business that you say you want to be because you're hoping to avoid some of the financial costs. So when you're looking to bring in money, from an investor, you've got to think about the fact that a good investor is going to engage in what we call due diligence.
Yes.
And if they're not doing that, then should be thinking twice about whether you want that person as an investor, because that's the kind of thing that could really end up creating harm down the future for your business if you're going for the money that's just there, that seems easy to get, but they're not an experienced, savvy investor who knows what they're doing when it comes to vetting businesses to invest in.
Thank you so much for that. I'm also an accredited investor, and deal flow is definitely an issue, so I can attest to that. And making sure that we get good businesses that have good financials, or at least we can comb through the financial data in such a way to make a rational decision as to whether or not we want to invest in this Black-owned, business. And so that's critical from an angel investor standpoint. I think investment criteria was also key. If you look at our portfolios and so forth, you can see the type of businesses that we are investing in, and then you can find out if that aligns with what you are working on as a business owner. So just to kind of go back through and talk about sort of the payments and so forth, making sure that your infrastructure is set up properly to collect payments is key. Making sure those accounts, business accounts and so forth, are set up properly is also key, as Ginger talked about. And then looking at the opportunities to go after grants from, funders such as Fearless Fund. And, we have I Fund Women. And as Lenore alluded to as well, we have Arlen Hamilton from Backstage Capital. There's also the Tory Burch Foundation, other opportunities such as that. So as we come to a close, I want to talk a little bit about maybe one or two things that business owners should have in their comprehensive financial plan. Lenore, can you talk about maybe one of those things that they should definitely have in their comprehensive financial plan?
Yes, I think what you've got to do is you've got to forecast what your revenues or capital will be if you're pre-revenue, where you're going to get the money to operate. You need to take a look at the specific action you intend to take to reach your objectives quarter by quarter, and what is the investment for that in terms of running the business.
Okay.
You also want to think about alternatives and how you can shift risk when you're not capable of covering all of the costs. So for example, I talk to people about the value of EPL, Employment Practices Liability Insurance, as a way of shifting risk, the cost of defending certain types of claims by employees. So when it comes to that financial plan, it really is about having a plan. And I would say probably the biggest thing, if I were to put it down into one thing, is get it on paper. When you see things on paper, instead of having it in your mind, makes it easier to share it with your advisors to get their feedback. It makes it easier for you to see the gaps in your plan, to fill them out, to update them. So if I were to put it down to one thing, I would say make it an actual written plan that you can work with and iterate with and improve upon over time, if I had to choose one.
I love it. I love it. Plan on having a plan. So write the vision and make it plain. All right. So Ginger, one piece of advice you would give to make sure that they have something in their comprehensive financial plan going forward?
Well, I think one of the most important things is, if you're going to build a plan, make sure you illustrate it as something very separate from your life as a consumer. One of the things that I always found as a banker is that because many small businesses don't separate out their checking from their business and personal side, because they mix up what they use loans for from the consumer side, your business plan, and I think Lenore said this well, your business plan should really point people looking at it in the direction that says, I am a bona fide business, and my business plan is about my business, and I am looking at it as very separate so that I can show the benefits that my business is providing, not necessarily mixing it up. And I do think that's a really big mistake. People say, well, it's easy just to put everything through one checking account. It's easy to just put my business expenses on my consumer credit card. And so I think it's very important that a business plan truly represent the business. And then in addition to that, I always feel that a business plan should have a roadmap, a timeline. You really want to put dates around what you think you're going to accomplish, because as an investor, you want to know there's a movement of this. It can't just be about setting it up, but then what is it? What's your 6-month plan, your 9-month plan, your year plan? So I think a business plan should really ring fence what you want to accomplish in that time so that you can illustrate to people that you have forward thinking and not just current thinking.
Wonderful. I think that's great advice. So, lady, that brings us to the end of our session. This has definitely been eye-opening as far as money matters for new Black-owned business owners. So, Lenore, what would be some final parting words that you would want to leave with the ladies tuning in today?
I would have to say is to maintain that that willingness to learn and to grow and to bring all of your advisors into the financial aspects of your business, whether it's marketing, whether it's human resources, whether it's legal. They all have an impact on the financial needs for your business and on how it impacts the return on what you're spending your dollars on. And so all of them should be able to contribute so that you have a real working knowledge of what's required for that runway, that roadmap that Ginger just spoke about. So get to a point where you are bringing them into that process, because it's all impacted and related, and separating it out and treating it financial as just financial and accounting and not impacting the other aspects and not requiring input is not going to work well for your business. Or let's put it like this, it will work better if you bring in those other aspects of your business. So that's my recommendation. Stay open, stay learning, and make it a cohesive team where everyone is interacting with each other.
I love it. I love it. So Ginger, I'll give you the final words. So anything you want to leave with the ladies today, and we want to also thank Mastercard for hosting Money Matters session today for this.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we love the work that's being done here. But I want to talk for 1 second about the imposter syndrome. Many business owners, particularly female and Black female entrepreneurs, have this wonderful idea. They start their business and then they start feeling, well, I don't belong here. I don't belong doing this. I don't trust myself. The mere fact that all of you are on this call today says you belong here, and know that you're not alone. Organizations like Mastercard, the reason that we sponsor this is we believe in putting the wind at the back of entrepreneurs. But I would just say, have a chip on your shoulder. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong doing what you're doing, because you do. And I would say that's something to keep aware of, because that can really take people down emotionally. But know that you belong, you have a place, and you'll soar.
Awesome words to leave on. I want to thank both of our guests today, Lenore Horton, as well as Ginger Siegel from Mastercard. That's going to do it for Money Matters for Women Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for watching this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.